Ironwood Games. This is Andrew. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to be doing a quick draft of Kaldheim up against the bots. I've drafted this just a couple of times. I like going against the bots because there's no pick timers, particularly on newer sets that I haven't drafted a bunch. So I have time to evaluate cards and make choices. I don't care for the bots. Sometimes they don't lead to great draft experiences, but again, for the entry fee and the price structure on Arena, I think it is fine. It gives me the most bang for my buck. I want to enjoy my time rather than eat through my gold and my gems. So let's jump in here and see what we get. Okay, Burning Rune Demon. I have not seen this before. Skimfar Elder Hall. One target creature. That's interesting. The Rune of Might is interesting. Turgrid's Shadow, I think, is definitely interesting in some more control-y builds. Let's see. It's a flying 6/6. When Burning Rune Demon enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of them, put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Let's just look at everything else real quick. I assume we're not going to see any commons that are like so much better than any of our uncommons or this mythic here that we have to pick them. And I think this seems good enough. A 6/6 flyer for 6 that draws you a card, essentially, and draws you one of 2 cards that you need, could be really good. The fact that you put the other one in your graveyard isn't necessarily bad either. There are some effects or some costs that have you exiling things from your graveyard. So who knows? I'm going to take that because I just think that is a really strong card. It is double black. We aren't necessarily going to be in black. We'll keep our options open and see, but I think of all those cards, that was definitely the strongest, has the most upside. Shimmerdrift Vale is a snowland that you can choose the color for. That would definitely keep us open. Wouldn't be bad. All right, let's see. Battershield Warrior. It's interesting. It's not one of the better boast creatures, in my opinion. But it does mess with combat, and it's a decent one. Dual Strike. It's a sorcery spell with converted mana cost. Copy that spell. So you pay 2 to get a double, or you foretell. I just not a huge fan of these copy cards. To me, they're a little situational, where they're kind of dead late game. You can foretell it, but then you've got to draw another instant or sorcery, so you really want to be in instants and sorceries for it, which I'm not sure we're going to be there. When you cast a creature spell, if snow of any of that spell's color was spent, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So that's interesting. A 3-mana 3/2. Let's look at everything else. This guy I think is good as a 3/2 with haste for 3. Village Rites is interesting. This is interesting in that I like the Shimmerdrift Veil. It kind of keeps us open. If we end up with some more snow stuff, it works there. This is definitely some fixing. Grim Draugr is interesting in like a snow build. If we were going for snow, though, I think I would prefer this. There's definitely some Sultai build options, or Sultai snow kind of options, and things. I do think this 3/2 for 3 is better than the Batter Shield Warrior as a 2/2 for 3, but it does have Boast. But I think this 3/2 for 3 might be at haste just a little bit better. Lets you come in and maybe make an immediate impact on the board, where both of these can play defense, and then can help boost other things. I don't know what I want to do. None of these... The Skull Raid is interesting, but I don't think any of these black cards are like so strong that I'm going to necessarily force black. This is still a decent card if we end up in green and we don't play snow. And either one of these, again, are decent cards if we end up in those colors and don't have the upside. I still think I'm leaning towards this Shimmerdrift Veil, just for the fixing idea, and keeping us open. And who knows what the bots are going to pass us. Yeah, we're going to do it. It might let us potentially just splash this black demon in. I don't know. We'll see what we get. Let's see. I love Inga Rune Eyes. It's just a great card with Scry 3. The only downside is she's legendary. If you get multiple of them, they're good. I've played with 2 in a draft, and I think that was good. Just sometimes you had both in your hand, and you were trying to kill it strategically so you could draw the cards and then get the other one in. But my opponents were very upset every time they managed to kill Inga, and then I played another one. So I think she's good. Shackles is always an interesting trick. This is good if you have like black-red sacrifice effects, to get to steal a creature and then sack it to, like we saw the last one, sack a creature, draw 2 cards effect. This is just a great curve topper. Sculptor of Winter is good in Snowlands, like with Shimmerdrift Veil. Could be good. Some decent red cards. Priest of the Haunted Edge is good in the kind of snow control build. It's not a bad card. Strategic Planning is okay. Iron Verdict I like, but it's not. It's conditional removal. Has to be tapped. It doesn't kill some of the 6 toughness creatures that can be hard to deal with. And Firja is a really good card. Flying Lifelink. It's double black, but we already have a double black card, and then we would look at maybe black-white. We could splash it off the Shimmerdrift here. And again, we're feeding our graveyard with her. The other one here, Litjara Glade Warden, does play in. It's just a good card. I've played with it. I really like it. It plays into that exiling cards from your graveyard, or creature cards from your graveyard, which we saw with Burning Rune Demon might be a thing, which I think shows up in black-green more than any combinations. I think Furja is a better card. I really like this. But it's not really... It can be a splash. The fact that it costs a green to activate makes it a little bit harder to splash, especially off a Shimmer Drift if we're trying to do other things. If we're going to splash, I would be much happier splashing for Furja on that. So that's why I'm going to take Furja here. I think there's a lot of good picks. I don't know. I think this is kind of depending on what you like, where you want to go. I could see taking Sculptor to go kind of more snow, and prioritize maybe snow lands and snow permanents. I could take Leetiara, and go green, discard that. I could go black-red, maybe sacrifice tokens, or I could do blue-black, try and do some value. I think there's a lot of things here. I like this because it doesn't necessarily put us in white, but it kind of shores up our black pick. And this, since we think is really good, and Furja is good. Her second ability is nice when you get it, but flying lifelink 2/4 is just good. It's one of those things that your opponent's going to want to deal with, even if you only get this a couple of times. We've passed some decent black cards a couple of times, so we'll see again what wheels, what we have. Looking through real quick, I think I prefer Broken Wings over Arachnoform, but since we have two flyers as our creatures here, neither one is looking incredibly powerful or necessary at this point. Immersturm can help with mana problems, fixing for splash. This is just a decent card. I don't love Raise the Draugr. It can be decent if we go more into the sacrifice area. Frostpeak Yeti I love. In your snow, this is just evasion that's just super powerful. Master Scald, interesting. You exile a card to return an artifact or enchantment. And it's a 5-mana 4/4. I don't know. I've not built the deck that wants this yet. And as a common, maybe we could pick one up if we end up in that deck. Immersturm Skullkarn. I don't know if I've played with this one. Sacrifice it, deals 3 damage to target player. That player discards a card. That's an interesting effect. The double red not being in red means I'd rather pick a red card and see if we wheel something like this. Then if it tapped for both black and red, maybe again we could splash off of it, but the fact that it's just a tapped swamp, it's really a bad card given everything that we have so far. Where I'd want to be in red before I get into that card. But I don't know that I want to get into red. So Doomscar Titan. Doomscar Titan. Instead of battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. It's definitely an interesting card to give haste. At 5 mana, how many other creatures are you going to be putting in on the same turn that get advantage from the haste? So I'm going to discount that as probably not very often, or if it is, it's maybe, a 2/1 or a 1/2 or something like that. And you're spending all your mana, and then you've got to go in for the kill that turn. So it's interesting. At the double red makes me a little leery of it. This being the only other white card and doesn't fit with what we want. And this again being not really a black card that does anything. Raise the Draugr. As a common, I think we can pick these up if we decide we want them. As a decent, as the only other black card, I could get Raven Wings, but I already, again, the only creatures I have flying, so I don't know that it does much. Score an Effigy just to stay open, but it's worse than I think some of our other creature options. And so if I'm likely to not play it anyways, I'd rather just have a better creature that I'm not going to play because it ends up in a color I don't play. And I said the 2 green cards don't look like they fit anything we need right now. And again, they're commons. So we can likely pick something up if we decide we do need some more flying answers. So I'm really leaning toward the Frostpeak Yeti. It ties in with things we've talked about and we've passed that could come back in that snow. We do have 1 snow to stay open. We could be black-blue and splash the white for Furja. We could be black-white and just splash blue for Frostpeak with a little bit of snow and maybe prioritize some snowlands in the right colors. I think the only other card that I think both of these are fine. I think I would consider Immerstorm Rider as the next best card because it does do some filtering and would do it. Again, looking at the 2 card qualities and that, I'm just going to take the better card. I think this is something that can be picked up and replaced, and I think these are harder to come by, the Frostpeak Yetis. So, this is interesting with this snow forest island, which can be really good if we end up in snow, splashing some Sultai. We have the Boreal Outrider, or a second one. We passed 1 that would play in with our snow. Putting counters on the Frost Yeti would be interesting. Icehide Troll is okay. I'm not going to pick it over the Outrider. If we look at its stats, right, as a 2/3 that gets indestructible, but it needs 2 snow mana, this is just a little bit better if we're kind of dipping our toe into snow at this point. This is fine, but again, we're not in green and it's not good enough. It's something we can pick up. Infernal Pet is in black, gets flying, gets bigger, and plays into our 2 spells a turn kind of theme that we want. Wings of the Cosmos is good for that archetype as well, so it's a 1 mana card. Play it after we declare attackers, send this guy flying, or get some good blocks and really have a blowout turn. Doomscar Oracle also plays into that, has Foretell, which is a plus. And then Codespell Cleric, which I think is worse, something we're likely to pick up. So this is again another kind of decision point that can be interesting. I haven't really played black-white. So we could take the black and really be solid in black and say, okay, we're gonna go black something, right? We could take the Outrider and say, okay, we're gonna try and do snow, but maybe we're Sultai Snow. Maybe we just don't play our black cards and we're blue-green Snow. If we're blue-green Snow, do we want to take the Rimewood Falls, prioritize that, take the Snowlands? We've seen some mountains and plains. We haven't seen any snow islands or forests, so maybe one of the bots already picking those up and then takes the Outrider. Or if we take the Outrider, they pick the Falls, and then we're fighting in that space. And so for that reason, I think what I've narrowed it down to, This one looks interesting. I think it just takes us in a different direction. That I've already played Blue Green Snow. I like that deck, but I kind of feel like I want to try something different. So I think to me it's between the Oracle and the Wings. And I think Wings is a really good trick. But the Doomscar Oracle as a 3-drop is good. As a foretell is really good. And I think it's possible to pick up Wings in the next packs or later on, and I'd hate to have 3 Wings. I don't know that I want all of those, unless I have a lot of things that want that second spell trigger. So I think I'd rather get the payoff cards first, instead of have all the enablers and then not have the payoffs. I think if we start doing that, then Infernal Pet looks better. But I do want to take some of these decent white cards and have some options. Of course, now that I say that, maybe cut black. Really solidify our position in black. No, I think we haven't passed a lot of good black cards. I think this is just the best card. We're going to take it, and we're kind of leaning towards, at least this point, white, black, maybe splash blue, snow. Okay. That's interesting. We didn't really go in that direction. I think we pass it. We haven't gone in that direction. Same reason before, we don't want that. If we go in and take red, that's not a bad card. Discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create a treasure token. I think that's interesting, not a reason to go into red, especially as I think we've got better options in colors we already have. Way Down is a really good card and fits into our maybe sub-theme of exiling or discarding some cards, putting things into the graveyard as that extra cost. This card, the first time I played against it, I misread it. I thought it was my opponent was going to sack a creature as the cost. They had 1 creature on the board and the same creature in their graveyard, and so when they announced the creature as for the extra cost, I thought it was the one on the board going to get sacrificed, and so I countered it so they would lose their creature on the board, and then they're like, oh no, it's from the graveyard to exile, and so it was a bad play, misplay on my part. But I still think this is a good card. Even if it was sack a creature, I think it's a good card. In it, I think the exile effects and what we have are just as good in this. I don't recall in a situation where I've been holding these cards and not being able to pay that extra cost on them. Coma's Faithful is good. I've already got creatures. I want to get some of those second spells, so that's why I like Way Down better. The Giant Ox is okay if we're going maybe vehicles or something, or we need some more defense, but again, I think these come around where you can pass these up. The Rootless U is good. If I had gone in green, maybe taken that 6/6 worm, he can pull that out and good. Double green with what we've got is not where we want to be going. And Liara Kinseekers is definitely a good card. Again, I don't want to kind of vacillate back between blue and white when I wanted to be solid black. At this point, I think I'm not going to be white-blue splashing black, so I'm going to be black-blue or black-white, and so I'm going to pick the good black card here. As always, the caveat for those of you watching is that I am not an expert, I'm not a pro, so I'm discussing my thoughts. They might be wrong, you can disagree, and that's fine. I do like this card. It does have the double white cost, but we're leaning towards being black-white, and creating that angel token again gives us flyers and some great things. The Warhorn Blast is good. It's a game-ending card, right? I want to play it when I go all out to end the game. And at common, I might pick one up later, and I'm usually not sad if I don't have one, especially if I have evasion or some other things that the bonus isn't necessarily great. The blue, I do like this Dread Rider a lot, as it goes in with the plan, right? Put creature cards in. This puts pressure on your opponents. If you're kind of in stasis, you're paired on the ground. But with looking at what I have here and kind of what we're going for, some removals, some flyers, evasion, I don't know that this is necessarily as a 7-drop. I already have a 5 and a 6. I don't know that I need something on the top. I think I'm going to take this land as an uncommon, less likely to see one, as again gives me a flyer. If you think about these, right, pay 3 to create a 4/4 angel. Late game, I'm not worried about losing the land. Flying Vigilance, I can get in for 4 versus paying 2, tapping it at the end of my opponent's turn to drain them for 3, exiling, which is a cost that kind of competes with some other things. So I think I'm going to take that as just a better utility card for what I've got going on. All right, and this immediately stands out to me as kind of, again, fitting it. Flying, Trample, which gives me some ways to put the game out at the end. It does have snow, which we've got a little bit of snow. We're not too far from that. If we never can pay for the snow cost, that's all right. I think it's still a fine card. We're nowhere near green. I don't think that card's worth going into or strong enough to make us say, oh yeah, we need to switch to green. Codespell Cleric is decent. Again, we'll probably see these as we go. Invoke the Divine is fine. Again, same thing. We'll probably likely to pick these up. This Berserker is fine. Same. It's a common that's kind of interchangeable. Doesn't always get the power boost. There's plenty of other common creatures in these colors that I could pick up. Combat Trick in a color we're not in. Gold Vein pick, interesting. Would let me splash some things and is good to pump up some early guys and get in. But we're looking at more of a late game kind of layout here. And then this Glacial Floodplain, this is where it's kind of a tough choice because this is my splash colors, or what I'm at least between on the splash colors. Most likely playing black-white, splashing blue. But the one blue does have a snow cost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very unlikely that this is the this card comes back. No, none of these come back because I take one, right? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All my opponents take them. So nothing comes back yet. So like, this is the last pack. Okay. So nothing comes back here. So it's really about prioritizing a snow land so I don't have to prioritize it later in other picks, in the first couple picks of the next pack or the third pack, versus a flyer that's okay but much better with snowlands. This is a tough pick. I don't know what the right answer is. I think if I have one more snowland or a few more snowlands, this becomes an easy automatic pick. This just enables me to splash the cards I already have, and we'll start to see in the rest of this pack what wheels and what looks like rounding out. So I'm going to pick the snowland. Here we see right away, right? We've got this Wings comes back, which I said we could probably pick up. Invoke the Divine is another one that likely we can pick one up at some point. Brine Barrow Intruder, I don't think is good enough with what we want to do. Black, white, just splash blue for really good cards. And I'm not in green at all, so I think it's between these two, and I'd rather have the combat trick that's cheaper and gives me some of my payoffs in my second spell cards. All right, cool. Here we got 3 black cards came back. This guy lets us play into our snow. A 3/2 for 3 gets +1/+0, and Menace is really good. Skull Raid is interesting. I don't know. And Village Rites is a decent card. I don't know that we're going in necessarily to a steal or a sacrifice. Build. So I could see any of these here. I'm going to take the 3-drop, kind of try and get a nice solid curve. I do like this for the Foretell, helps with the curve, and this being low. But I'm going to take the creature here. Just make sure we have enough creatures before we just start taking kind of some other random things or less likely things. Okay, here, interestingly, nothing in our black or white. I don't know why I would splash this card as a sorcery in blue. This would let us, just give us a Foretell, would give us some tokens that we could use in a sacrifice thing. We don't have to be committed to blue. We could go black, white, and splash red. If I'm going to sack and do that, I like Shackles just a little bit better. I'd rather sacrifice my opponent's scary creature on that. I could take the Snow-Covered Mountain for a snow land if I end up splashing red, but I think the Shackles is a better thing of if I need to be in red, kind of that would look better. Here I'm going to take the Master Scald, just because maybe I end up with enough artifacts and enchantments that it's good. If not, it's a 5/5 or a 4/4 for 5, which is still a decent card at the top. It's a creature, and for same reasons we've discussed, the Raven Wings I don't think is good at this point. So I'll just take a creature that lets me stay in my colors. Here, this is again an easy. These are the kinds of ones I want to come back, help with kind of the low curve, and do that. I don't see either of these making the deck. I'll take this Broken Wings as if I need more removal things or something. That's gonna get cut. I'm gonna cut the Shackles right now, or put it in the side, just to kind of see what this is my kind of vision of where I want to go. Okay, this has got some interesting things. I like to save the suspense here. So Snow-Covered Swamp definitely enables some of the things we're trying to do. We've talked about these, but they're green. We're kind of ignoring them. As a red card, not worth it at this point. Frostbite, interesting as a shock that can upgrade to a lightning bolt. I haven't seen this card before, but I like it. But we're not really in snow, and I don't know that we're in red. For 1 mana, way down seems better. Infernal Pet is decent. Duskwielder is really good. I like its boost. Can be really good. Draugr Recruiter is decent. When you want to boost and get something back, you have an important thing to bring back. It's fine. Mistwalker is good in blue, but for the Flying Changeling, we don't need it. Doomscar Oracle is a fine card. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of cards, 6 if we count the Snowland at commons that I would put into the deck and wouldn't be sad about. Dual Strike, no. Skimfar Shadow Sage. Okay, each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. Okay, so I know there's some like Angel Cleric in black-white. There's Berserker in black. And then it looks like humans, some other pieces. So that's interesting. And so either I gain or my opponent loses X on that, which is a decent card. This pack has a lot that we would love to take. All right, Valkyrie's Sword. I like this cycle of artifacts where they can come in, and when they do, you can pay to create the creature to equip it. They're kind of modal in that sense. They tend to be better if you can pay the full price and get the free creature from the ones I've seen. But I think that each one depends and is kind of independent. And then it's also situationally, right? Like putting this on a flyer might just be the way to close out the game. Putting it on Frostpeak Yeti, making them unblockable, can be really good. So let's see, 5, 6, 7. 7 mana for a 6/5 flying vigilance is a decent cost. It would go at the top of our curve. It's modal, and I like it. We're gonna have to make some decision here in this one. This one seemed interesting. This one, if I end up playing Master Skald, right, could return this late game for, again, more value. But I haven't even looked at this rare. I know it's a black-white saga. I love sagas, and I don't know that I'm familiar with this one. So let's see. For Firja's Retribution, create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. Yeah, I already, for 4 mana, get the token that this would create at 7. Okay, so this is better. It's an enchantment, so it still gets the benefit from Master Skald. And then when you continue to read, we see here, if they kill it, they use a removal on it. That good for them. That was absolutely a good choice. If it stays until end of turn, angels you control gain tap, destroy target creature with power less than this creature's power. With vigilant angels, which we would have one from here, maybe another one from the Starnheim, would mean it's angels you control, would mean you can attack and then tap them to clear out a bunch of blockers. And that if they have any flying blockers or things. So we're definitely taking this. This just looks like a really good card, and we're going to be unashamedly black-white and just pound this one in. Let's see. The Trickster God's Heist. I've had this before. I've never gotten to play it. It sounds interesting. I like the idea of it. I'm not going to splash it in this deck with what we're going. Double white, double blacks. I might not even play the Frostpeak Yeti if we don't have enough snow on that, and that'd be fine. I think between the Dusk Wielder and the Axguard Braggart, we have a card that fits into our deck and is really good here. The question really is, which one do we want? If this was the tap boast creature, I would absolutely take that one. I think that's the best boast creature in white that taps something down. Giving this boast ability is kind of pseudo vigilance. It's a 4/4 for 4, when you pay its boast on the next turn, and it kind of grows, it has to be answered, or it gets out of control, and so it eats up removal, which we've already got creatures that, or a couple of creatures at least, that want to eat up removal. I think Dusk Wielder, while interesting, is one of those that can sit on the ground and do nothing. And so I'm going to take the Axguard Braggart. I don't know that I want a ton of these. I would love the Dusk Wielder as a kind of variety to provide some different avenues in my deck. So we have Snow-Covered Island, which would be interesting. I don't know if we take it, that'd probably be our last snow land, and we would have 3 blue sources for this Frostpeak Yeti and 3 snow sources for it. I don't know that it's worth it and necessary. Raven Wings, as I've said before, I don't think looks good in this. Kennel Master is fine. I have some stuff up at the top. I don't know how much I want up there. We're not taking Warhorn Blast yet. Again, if this comes around, it's fine. It's got Foretell. Not playing the red, so that's there. That's interesting, but not good in our deck at all. Narfi Betrayer King, I have played with. It's interesting. I don't think it fits in this deck again as a splash. At 5, I'd rather just take, I think, Karfell Kennelmaster. That does some interesting things on that turn, maybe deals some damage in. Icebreaker Kraken. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each snowland you control. When Icebreaker Kraken enters the battlefield, artifacts and creatures target opponent controls don't untap. Okay, so we saw... trying to think what set it was. It was a couple years ago. I'm going to say Kaladesh, but I don't know if that's correct or not. We saw a similar creature that, goes in, wipes your opponent's board. I think in that case it bounced things, and then you could return it to your hand a few turns later to kind of do it again, and it was pretty much game ending. So this feels very similar to that. I'm sure someone in the comments will be able to tell me what the card I'm thinking of is. And it lets you return snowlands, which you play out again. So, I mean, it seems really good. Double blue and not being really heavy snow makes it a weird splash. Is it just good enough that it's worth that kind of stretch? Is it a better card than Karfell Kennelmaster? Is it better than a Snow-Covered Island? Snow-Covered lands would be important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The Shimmerdrift Veil does get some fixing, counting 11 cards, because we still need more cards in our deck if we don't take this. I'm going to take it for a couple of reasons. One, it is, if we end up going more, it is really good. It can be game breaking. It gets cheaper for snow lands we control. We'd want to prioritize snow lands. If we don't, oh well. Really what I think I'm missing is this common. 1 card here. And maybe the Snow Island. If, say, we take it and we get another Shimmerdrift Veil, it's much easier to kind of play and prioritize in that. We do have to pick up Snowlands, which means our deck gets harder to fill out, but then being in 3 colors makes it a little bit easier to find things that at least fit in. The other reason, it is a rare, and that's not a great reason in Arena and other things. In Arena, value doesn't matter, so it doesn't matter the cost necessarily. Just being a rare is fine. And the third reason of I like to dream. So we're going to take it. I'm going to put it in the sideboard. Oops, that's the wrong card. Shimmer Drift comes out of the sideboard. We do have the Brine Barrow Intruder. That's good to remember. That would help in making that 3-color deck good. Immediately what stands out to me here is Bound in Gold as a somewhat removal. Can be decent. There's a couple times where it's not great if they have like Frisia. It doesn't work good on the second turn cards that actually do other things. Elder Fang Disciple is fine, but again, pick that up on a wheel or something. Bound in Gold's not going to wheel, or very not likely to wheel. Usher of the Fallen is fine if you get it early and can go wide. Can help to some sacrifice effects. Spectral Steel. It's an enchantment. Exile Spectral Steel from your graveyard. Return another target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to a hand. So it won't return our Saga. So I'm definitely going to pass on it. Bound in Gold is good. Gives us another removal with our way down on that. And see here, we've got, if we really wanted that Carfell, we've got another one that comes back. But I think we've got better cards in here. Even Doomscar, I think, is maybe better for the curve. Runed Crown enters the battlefield. You may search your library, and for rune card, okay, we're not playing runes. Shepherd of the Cosmos, I really like. It has Foretell, which makes it really good, and it does let us bring back something, a permanent with 2 or less to the battlefield. Right now, the only thing we have is Code Spell Cleric, but we could prioritize getting some more of those. It is a flying 3/3, and when you foretell it, it's not a bad cost. If you hardcast it, it's a little mediocre. Kaya's Onslaught, I haven't played with. It has foretell. Does let us get some of those second spells in. I'm going to take it just because it does seem like a good trick. I don't want a ton of them, but I like some good ones. If I'm going to have non-creature spells, I want them to be good. Okay, this reflecting or replicating ring, I drafted once before, and I never got to play it. The one thing I will point out is this could be amazing if the Icebreaker Kraken was snow permanence, but it's snow land, so it doesn't actually reduce the cost. It would let us splash a little bit easier, because we can add one of any color, and if the game goes long enough, you get basically to ramp a little bit. So I'm not going to write it off. I think Bergstrider would be interesting as another option. Ravenform can be a removal of sorts. This one I've played with Shackles as well, and that's a fun way to get rid of your opponent's creatures and steal all the value. Way Down is good just as kind of removal. Would probably be better than Ravenform. I kind of want to take Replicating Ring and see and kind of try and be greedy. We're halfway through pack 2. We only have 8 creatures. We'd be kind of running into our top of our maxing out our non-creature cards. And then if we pick up Snowlands for Icebreaker Kraken, it makes it harder to get there. So I don't know if this is too greedy, just greedy enough, or if it makes sense to stick with the Way Down, but I'm going to go greed because I'm not a pro, and this is why I'm not a pro, because I look at these things and I get greedy. I say, well, I'm going to live the dream and try and do something ridiculous if I can. And then also I consider so many things, like I have to keep checking what I actually picked because I think through so many different scenarios without not knowing all of the cards yet. I consider so many things that sometimes I need to do that. I think the Shadow Sage here has some good upside. As a 2/5, it's really good. Again, diversifies my deck. So the Colossal Plow is interesting. It works really well with that Ox that can crew with its 6 toughness as a 6/3. I don't know. I've never played it and gotten those both together. I think I'm feeling like I really would rather just have a creature. Skull Raid is interesting. I don't think it will make it over some of the other non-creatures that I have, especially if I can get some removal or combat tricks. And so I think it's here about just what's going to be better for the curve and the cards. We've seen a couple of this guy go around this pack already, so that's why I'm going to take the Axeguard Braggart, because I'd rather have one of each than 2 more of this. If I don't pick up any of those, I will be sad. I think this one's a better choice between the 2, but using all the context of what I know, I'm going to take that. If I take the Colossal Plow, I think I'm committing to picking up Oxes and doing that, and I don't know that it does enough. The 3 white mana doesn't necessarily ramp us into our black drops. It could ramp us into Kraken a little bit, but not great. And I think that's just doing too many cute things. So we've already spent our picks on cute elsewhere. Okay, here we can take Snow-Covered Swamp. For Snowlands, for maybe the Icebreaker Kraken, 1, 2, 3, would make it a 9-drop. We can take the Doomscar Oracle. We could take the Dusk Wielder. I think the Doomscar is better than Dusk Wielder for the fact that it has Foretell and gains me some incidental life every once in a while. Infernal Pet would be decent, and Way Down is a decent removal as well. We've still got one more pack, and there's a chance a Doomscar still wheels or a Way Down still wheels. One of these 4 cards, or 2 or 3 of them, wheel in these future packs. I know the Snowland won't, so I'm going to take the Snowland. Here we go. So again, if I have to play this guy as just a creature, just to fill the deck, the curve, we're up to 11 creatures now. I can take the Dread Rider, but again, if I take the Snow-Covered Island, it just lets me be a little bit greedy here with what I want to do. I like this card. I want it to be better than I think it is in draft, at least. Question is, do we take an Iron Verdict or a Master Skald? I think playing Master Skald to get back this Saga is just such a strong play that I don't mind having it. Iron Verdict being conditional is and I just don't know that I have room for a bunch more non-creatures. So I'm going to take Master Skald. Make sure I have creatures before I have nothing else to do. Demonic Gifts is interesting. I don't think it's a great card. But I don't know that I want Dread Rider. And I think I'd rather, again, the creature over the non-creature. We see that Dread Rider keeps... right, there's been a lot of them passed in here. So Code Spell Cleric. So here's where I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of these cards are lands. I am just going to cut a few things that I don't anticipate playing in the final deck to kind of make sure I can see what my curve looks like of what I want to play or what I think I might play. A second Frostpeak Yeti would be great. Draugr's Helm. It is interesting. It's 5 mana for a 2/2 zombie that becomes a 4/4 with Menace, which isn't bad with the 2 Master Scalds. It's decent. Tegrid's Shadow can be good in playing kind of control. I don't know that that's where we're going, but it can be good if we don't have a lot of early things and we're playing control early on until we can get to our late game. Feed the Serpent as just straight up removal might just be the best pick, though. I like the Frostpeak Yeti as another evasion, kind of plays into this swamp effect or swamp things and all that, but I think just get rid of the problem creature is the best pick. This is pack 3. We'll get a couple of decent looks here in these first couple of packs and see maybe we get one of those other good cards or something else that's really good here. I do like Dogged Pursuit. I don't know that it makes the deck, or this deck in particular. With, again, we still need 3 more cards. I don't have a ton of creatures, and I probably want the remaining 3 cards to be creatures. But that doesn't mean I pick up the creatures and then have too many creatures at the end, because that's all I pick up. So I think I'll pick this, knowing that I probably don't play it. It's probably not a quick enough card to make a difference. Immediately I see the Snow-Covered Plains. That looks good. Elderfang Disciple would help with my kind of early curve, my 2-drops. Starnheim Courser is interesting as a 2/2 flyer. I don't need another Master Scald. Iron Verdict that we didn't pick up, we could pick up. I think something like this Wheels. Maybe the Starnheim Wheels. And we know the Plains doesn't wheel. If we pick Plains, we put back in Icebreaker Kraken. 2, 3, 4. That's 21. We can get 2 more cards. Yeah, let's try that and let's just see what happens on this. So now I can pick up Giant Ox to just kind of stall the game, if you will. Which isn't a bad idea. To do that, I can get the Frostpeak Yeti just to have another evasion and go a little bit more in the blue. Since we've got 1, 2, 3 blue sources, we'll probably end up playing another island, and then with this maybe have 5. We could pick the Rimewood Falls, but I think we should get a creature that just does something here. And I'm going to take the Yeti and play this monstrosity. I think we're going to take this Starnheim. As the Battlefield Raptor is a really good card. I think all of these are fine. I think we've got options and interesting things to do here. I like this God's Hall Guardian, again, as a foretell creature. It might be worth it just to give us more things to do early on, as we're trying to get to some of these bigger things down here. I don't think I need a third Frostpeak Yeti. I could take another Wings of the Cosmos. But I don't have a ton of the 2 spell triggers, and I might end up cutting this one here. The other option is take another Shadow Sage. They play well together, and we do have some decent synergies in creature types, but I mean, nothing amazing. If for some reason, we did see one of these wheel before, if for some reason it came back, I would consider taking another one. I like this for the foretell cost. I'm going to consider it a 2-drop, essentially, as I build my deck. Well, a 2 and then a 4-drop, right? So, all right. Root of Mortality I haven't seen before. Let's see. Draw a card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it has Death Touch. As long as enchanted permanent is equipment, it has equipped creature, has Death Touch. That's interesting. This is just a good 2-drop. This does let us get a few things out a little cheaper. I don't know if it's worth it. Dusk Wielder is fine as a 1-drop that might do some things. I feel like Ruins. I think this is our 23. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so we have 23 here. If we add anything, we'd have to cut something. So I could see cutting a Codespell Cleric for these, either of these 2. I think would still be a better card. As a 2-drop, this isn't really a 2, and we want to put it on something later, but everything we have already kind of wants to be killed or do its thing, so I'm going to pass on that. And we could take the 3-drop. But I don't know what we would cut. I think I'm going to take the 2. Just get a nice solid curve, some things to do here. Again, I think for similar reasons I might take the 2, but I remember this guy does have Foretell, and so as a 2 playing a Foretell, I don't mind. And the instant life gain can be decent. We could take the Giant Ox as a 2 to hold it down. I like maybe trying to play a little bit into the drag the game out, value out my opponent, and do that. Yeah, as a 3-2, I think we just cut the Grim Draugr then to keep our curve there. Again, as we add things, we need to cut something if we're based on what we have here. Otherwise, it's going to go straight to the side. And so that's the real question: is are any of these better than what we have? Which I don't think God's Hall Guardian, or not a second one at least, is better. This Recruiter I don't think is. I don't think the Skull Raid is. Is the Frostpeak Yeti better than the Axguard Braggart? But again, as our splash, I don't really want to have... I've already got the double. I don't really want to be all my 4-drops being in blue and needing those. I'm going to take the Skull Raid for the sideboard. We're playing quick matches, so of course we're not going to sideboard, but I just think it's a better card. Here, I'll just take the uncommon for rarity's sake. If we were playing sideboards, I'd take Invoke the Divine for the sideboard as just another way to deal with any kind of threats sagas, things we have. Since we don't, I'm going to take the uncommon. I'll take the giant ox in the sideboard if we look at our curve and decide we really want a 2-drop. It's fine. Yeah, nothing matters in any of these. I'm just going to take whatever we get. So, interesting. Not a lot of those things in pack 3 wield towards the end that we said we would be happy with. But again, I think that's fine. We kind of were happy with the deck that we had at this point. So let's see. I don't know if I can get some of these cards down in my 2s. But if we do, we can see, yeah, we've got enough stuff to do on 2. I don't think we need that ox. 3 is fine. 4 is good. 5 has stuff, and then we've got kind of a top end here. The only other consideration is the lands. It added for us 3 islands, which I think is too many. Yes, we have the double blue, but this is our curve topping game ender that I don't need till later. And so I think just adding 1 island is going to be enough. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4 blue sources. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 snow lands. For this guy, we have the snow artifact for him as well. I don't think anything else we had was snow other than Icebreaker Kraken. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which brings him down to a 7 if we have all those lands out, which isn't bad. I think that's a decent discount on it. 7 for an 8/8. I'd pay 8 or 9. I mean, even paying 10 for this is still not a bad deal. In that it doesn't untap. Your opponent's creatures don't untap. You can always bounce some of your snows, bring it back. Late game, this can be really good. Burning Rune Demon is interesting. I don't know what we'll grab all the time. Most of the time I imagine getting 2 creatures and being willing to feed 1 to the graveyard for a like way down or something. We need to add then some combination of black and white to make up for that island. Let's see how many black sources we have. 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got a lot more white in the early game. We do have the double black in the late game. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white. So yeah, we're going to add those as planes. I don't know how it chooses the lands, but we're going to choose one we like. Why not? This sounds fun. This one's also really nice. I just look at the art and I want certain I want the land to look like a plane, you know, like I love this art. I mean, this is great. It's the Rebecca Kwai lands. But let's just pick something here, and it's still beautiful. Oh man, it really doesn't need to be this hard. I just like to agonize over Stupid choices. Okay, we'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we won't mess with the swamps. Yeah, those are fine. And we'll call this our deck. I think it's fine. I'm excited to play with some of these cards. I have no idea. Maybe we got greedy. Maybe it's going to be a disaster. Maybe we get some good plays. All right, so join me next time, guys. I'll go in. I know we took a long time drafting here, talking about all of our picks, but next time I'll get into the games, and we'll see you there.